Welcome to the I Told You podcast. I'm J. Marcelo Vaquero Alvarez, and this is not the podcast for snowflakes because I'm likely going to hurt your feelings. But facts, they don't care about our feelings, but I do care about the truth, and that's what we're going to be speaking about. Particularly today is going to be one of those episodes that is going to be hard for some people, but you really need to listen all the way down to the end because it's something that you are just not getting anywhere else, and you need to understand this. Okay, so today's topic is how Trump's tariffs are wrecking and isolating America. Okay, so a quick trigger warning: if you were a Trump fan, this will hurt you like a bitch, and if you were not, well, this is not going to make you feel any better either about him. But again, as I said, you need to understand it, and the reason is because the adversarial forces, they are several steps ahead, and the media is generally very reactive, and they fall into a trap over and over again. So, in other words, it's misdirection. So, kind of like the way that it works is you have these different clues that they actually put over there that's going to be helping for the clickbait, or is going to be creating some level of cognitive dissonance, or is going to get people super angry about that, or start certain debate. And that is actually by design. They actually want to do that. I told you that in a previous episode that generally any authoritarian propagandist is going to need a foe, is going to be needing an enemy, is going to be needing somebody that they need to be that nemesis to kind of like push against. And that's what we're going to be seeing at a much larger scale. Okay, so that is what's going on. And of course, the media happens to be one of those enemies that they want to be pinging against the wall, and just kind of like having this kind of like weird struggle and balance. And yes, a lot of them have been talking about the Trump's tariffs, and how is this actually a tax on the regular Americans or on everyday people? That means you. And that is correct. Yeah, that is actually going to be a tax on all of us. We are going to have to pay a lot more, even if you didn't realize how, because obviously he doesn't actually realize. But there's a lot more to this situation that most people are not really talking about, and that is what we are going to be having to unpack little by little. Because again, most of the strategy that is being used against us is not something that just fits in a bumper sticker. Understanding how that works, it takes a lot of different process. All right. So first, yes, understand. Yeah, the tariffs are not going to be working like Trump is boasting that they're going to be doing. And then again, when you think about it, I mean, the dude, he bankrupted 2 casinos and had a bunch of other businesses that went under. And he was also liable for fraud, and he was convicted for falsification of business records. 34 counts, actually. He's a convicted felon. He was able to essentially get away now with not actually getting the sentencing, which was actually supposed to be happening several months before the election. But, that is how we've been conditioned to normalize the bizarreness that has been going on with us. But the point is that even if you don't believe that Trump was guilty, or that this was lawfare, and that somebody is actually trying to hold him accountable without any merit or whatever, the fact is that he got a lot of blind spots. And even if you want to, again, say that this is lawfare, and that somebody is trying to attack him, you have to understand that strategically he did not plan to avoid any of those legal proceedings against him, which he lost, by the way, all of them. So he didn't actually win. And if you actually were following this thing in a pragmatic manner, then you would see how laughable and how pathetic really his performance was. But he was really banking on the fact that if he becomes a president, or he becomes a president once again, he was able to essentially raise all that, or use some of those loopholes in order for him to be able not to have to contend with those things, particularly those crimes that he was accused from. And that, yeah, of course, is happening, so all those federal crimes, 90 plus criminal charges, yeah, essentially disappear, on all the 4 different jurisdictions. And the 34 crimes that he actually got convicted for, yeah, that is probably going to have another type of aftermath, and all these other charges that they were supposed to be occurring, he got away with them. That's essentially what happened. Okay, he's not even saying that he didn't do it necessarily. He's just saying, "Well, you couldn't get me." Like there was these loopholes, and they actually brag about that. Even though some people might not actually realize, or they don't know how to read between the lines, but that's what's going on. So the reality is that all those cases he lost. There's a reason why he's trying to make them disappear. Uh, you see how that makes sense? Okay. But he also seems to have another handicap, and this is a much bigger. Trump seems to be subordinate to Putin. And when you actually realize that, then all the insanity makes sense automatically. All the dots connect. That is both domestically and geopolitical. So if you see what is actually going on as far as like the US's standing in the world, in particular wedge issues, and how that is actually affecting the train of thought for a whole bunch of different world leaders, yeah, that is actually part of that. Particularly because elections they have consequences, and whenever you move from one election cycle to another and you have a different person in power, then a lot of the power shifts between the different people who are making business with the USA or the diplomatic convoys that we have, or envoys rather, or whoever is actually supposed to be having certain positions. They might have now some other problems they have to contend with because of political leanings, and that is, of course, something that is happening. And understand that Trump, he's not the only world leader that seems to be subordinate to Putin. Now the question is, do they realize it, or are they complicit? Okay, so this is important. Okay, because you have to understand. Okay, so Putin, he was a trained KGB counterintelligence officer, so he understands the psyops portion. He understands essentially how to mind fuck you. How to get into your mind and just find your vulnerabilities and fucking turn to a fucking puppet. Okay, essentially what he does, he puts hands up the politicians' ass, and fucking makes them say whatever he wants them to say. And that is what we've been seeing in a lot of countries. In some of these countries, they kind of seem to enjoy the way that Trump is kind of like on your face, kind of like this quote unquote an apologetic, just like very bombastic. And that is, of course, phenomenal because that helps Putin really put his message through a megaphone, because there's a whole bunch of people who are going to enjoy a cult of personality. So understand this, okay? Being subordinate does not necessarily mean that it's being mandated, okay? It doesn't mean, that you're going to be finding like a smoking gun that is going to be having a little note, and say like, hey, do this X, Y, or Z, okay? That's not how it works, He's a lot more shrewd and smarter than that, Now, some of the fucking idiots who think that that's how it would work, yeah, they're going to be expecting to see that, and that's why you're never going to see that. But the fact is that whatever the method that he's using, all these politicians, to include Trump and all his acolytes, they're repeating the Kremlin talking points verbatim. Don't take my word for it. I told you that in previous episodes. Go to RTV, go to TASS. You're going to be seeing the same talking points repeated verbatim. And that is exceedingly convenient to Russia, because is not something that they even have to say, well, just, am I at fault? You guys are repeating these same things. Maybe you agree with me. And yeah, they kind of like frame certain things in some ways that is appealing to, particularly in the USA, for the MAGA crowd, and for some of this conservative crowd that they seem to think that Russia is a beacon of traditional values, or anti-gay, or whatever other wedge issues that they seem to dislike over there, or that rather that they've been punished for in Russia if you exhibit any of that leaning towards something that they don't approve in that state. So you have to understand, okay? So the point is that then either all these politicians, are they too stupid to realize that they're repeating these things and that they're falling into those particular traps that are set for them? Because then it becomes fair game. It's like, okay, I set these traps, and if you're too fucking too dumb to fall for that, woohoo, you're lost. Or are they complicit to it? So neither case is good. Okay, I understand. Okay, if they are too stupid to understand that there's a strategy that's been playing upon them, and that is actually counterproductive to the USA, that is absolutely abhorrent, and it's really bad. And what the fuck are they actually doing? But the other thing is that if they are actually complicit, then that is treason. Plain and simple. Which one is it? All right, I understand. Okay, what we have here. So, what would be then the role of Russia, which is an openly adversarial country against the USA, towards the USA? Okay, remember, okay, Russia has already gone on record. Go look it up. They say that they would strike the USA or any of our bases with nuclear weapons if they feel threatened. And this "if they feel threatened" is a very dynamic construct. Okay, so you need to understand, what that means. Well, the obvious thing is that they want to bump the USA off the number one spot in the world. They don't want the USA to be the premier nation because, yes, the USA has a lot of room for improvement, but we still set the status quo for the rest of the world. Okay. So if the USA loses that number one spot, then you are not the premier nation anymore. Then you're not calling the shots. Then you're not having that status quo. Then whose status quo is going to be? Is it going to be Russia? Is it going to be China? Is it going to be whatever other model that they actually want to put, that they actually impose? Now, before you say, well, it should be freaking awesome if we have like something like Russia. Well, remember that Putin has been in power for more than 2 fucking decades and nobody has been able to tell him no. Most certainly not the people in the USA, apparently, who are in the MAGA realm. So there's a reason why he does that, okay? There's a reason why he's been able to, quote unquote, maintain that power for so many fucking years, okay? It's not because a lot of people can say, hey, can I have something different? You have to realize, okay, that if a person was 10 years old when Putin got into power, now they're 30 years old right now after 20 some years or in their 30s, and they've never seen any other different governing style than Putin's. Okay, you have to understand, okay, how that happens. All right, that doesn't necessarily mean that because they have a tenure that they're over there that they're actually necessarily good. You can say the same thing about some of the senators that we have in Capitol Hill that are really questionable as well. Okay, and that's why we talk sometimes about term limits. But so how do you destroy a country? And I've been talking about this thing before, but it's worth repeating. You destroy a country from the inside out. So how do you do that? Okay, so well, it's actually pretty easy in a way. You get the most bombastic and pedantic asshole that you can find. Somebody who probably has room temperature IQ that is not really going to understand that they're actually being played up as a fucking puppet, but make them believe that they are in charge. So you give this person who might have had some clout or some level of notoriety a lot of clout. There's going to be big with bots and with money and with all these free media coverage. Like, for example, Trump, he got a lot of media coverage because he was saying all kinds of stupid shit. And what he did, he got tons of free publicity. And a lot of people, they either like his message or they didn't like his message or they hated his guts, but they just want to see, okay, what the fuck is going to come out of his mouth next. And that is how he actually created this gigantic clout. And he also broke a lot of the other rules, like using Twitter for actually conducting foreign policy. I mean, what the fuck, but that was actually happening during the Trump era. So you prop this person, whoever this bombastic person is, and try to get a cult of personality behind them. So that's how it happens, okay? So Russia's really good at creating this cult of personality that has all this army of bots and army of fake influencers and actual influencers, and they pay the money and they actually make them get some prominence to whoever is it that they want to pander to. And a lot of people who are very naive or they're very impressionable, they're just going to eat it up. And that's how it happened, okay? And of course, in other words, they institute this useful fools clout as a vehicle to push that doctrine, okay? So that's how it works, okay? You get a bombastic person, give them a lot of clout, make them, quote unquote, really famous, and have a lot of people then just start fighting among each other, and that's how it starts, okay? So is that happening in the USA? Well, no, duh. I mean, yeah, it is. I mean, look up just like, for example, all Trump's choices, and their conflicts of interest that they have on the very positions they're supposed to be filling. Which, regardless of who you actually think or if you like or dislike this person that he appoints, they all have conflicts of interest, and they have another thing in common. They're all convenient to Russia. Why? Because whatever they actually have on record or the level of experience they have, it strategically makes sense to have them in that position for Russia should Russia want to take over the USA. That's what it is. You cannot buy talent or experience. That's why normally a cabinet position is going to be appointed by somebody who actually knows what the fuck they're doing very well, that they have career level knowledge on a particular area so they can perform at that level. That's why you don't put loyalists unless you are working for the other side. Okay, that should be pretty easy. Okay, And I know this is a complex topic, and I understand, okay, that we were going to be talking about tariffs, and sometimes it might seem that it goes to different directions. Yes, please watch it until the end, okay? Because yes, all these episodes are long because the way that propagandist wants to treat you is by try to make you dumber by giving you all these little packaged information, so you think that you're super smart, okay? But that's not how reality works. All the information is scattered all over the place, and it's kind of like you have to be getting all these pieces and just kind of bring them full circle. So yes, bear with me, understand, because I understand the shit. I need you to understand, okay? That's why I'm doing this thing for you. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for all of us. All right. So the adversary wants people who are saying to give up and look away and say, okay, fuck it. It's like all these other motherfuckers, they're everywhere. So I just give up. I don't want to deal with them. Yeah, I'm done. And that's what happens, particularly right after Trump won. A lot of people said, like, yeah, fuck it. I don't want to know anything about politics. I don't want to be dealing with this thing. Yeah, it gives me a headache. I'd rather do anything else, rather than thinking on that. What did the MAGA folks do in the meantime? Well, they run wild and they start making all these other choices on your behalf, whether you like it or not, that are going to be affecting you. So while you're actually snoozing or watching a movie or being distracted, then they are doing something that they wanted to enact. So at the beginning of this situation, that is when you need to be paying the most attention, because it's time sensitive. A fire is not going to get any better the longer you wait. Okay, so it's going to be engulfing your entire house and then entire neighborhood. That is what's happening. All right. So the other thing, that's going to be happening, is like people are just going to be accepting their fate. That's what they want. Okay, so kind of like you see in a fascistic country when somebody, just put them on their knees and just like blow their head up with a bullet. That's essentially what they're asking you to do. Just give up. Okay, yeah, don't even fight it. They're going to end your life and they're going to be taking over your existence whichever way they want it. That's why you need to use your First Amendment right while you can. But remember, still, while you have a First Amendment right, at least for now, because coming January, these conversations that we're having is not going to be as easy. We're not going to be able to have that, okay? So at least there has to be a timestamp. Say, okay, I spoke while he was still, quote unquote, not in power yet, okay? Because Trump is normalizing a lot of this authoritarian rhetoric, and he's been doing that already since well before he got into power the first time. And the problem is that most of his MAGA followers, they think that he's just fucking peachy. A lot of his MAGA followers, they say, like, when he said, well, I'm just going to be a dictator on day one, or I'm going to be a dictator, I'm going to be trying to be a strong man, and I want to have people to respect me like they respect the North Korean dictators. Yeah, that is not normal behavior. That is not what you should be expecting from a U.S. president to be saying. Not even in a private setting, not at all. It shouldn't be something that had to be in his mind, just period. It's supposed to always be thinking about the American people. All right, so the problem is that there's going to be a lot more fear, okay? And when there's more fear, then Trump or any person who is very thin-skinned and their policies are really not that good because he really doesn't have a policy, he wants to be feared. Fear does not equal respect. Fear does not equal respect. Now, you might have to shut the fuck up, so you don't get your head blown up. That is very different. That doesn't mean that you respect the motherfucker that is about to fucking blow your head off. You're probably fearing them because you don't want to get your head blown off. Do you understand the difference? Okay. So fear is not the same as respect. Trump is saying that he wants the other nations in the world to fear the USA again. Why should they be fearing the USA if the USA is supposed to be their ally, if the USA is supposed to be their friend, if the USA is supposed to be the beacon of freedom in the world? Does that make sense to you? Okay, understand that, all right? So the problem is that it's Trump had a huge problem during his first presidency. He had a lot of people who were actually career professionals that they were doing their actual job, and their actual job was to preventing from shit to go off the rails regardless of political leanings, okay? Because there are certain things in government that they are not political, okay? It either works or it doesn't work. Doesn't matter if it is a Republican independent or a Democrat in power. We've never had an independent, I don't think so. But anyways, The problem is that you need to have certain things that are going to be working the way they're supposed to be working. And when you start putting loyalists, then what is going to happen? Okay. The experienced people are going to say, well, fuck it, I cannot be over here. And they might actually start going out through the exits. And now what happens? The people who are in charge now, they have no experience. Remember what I keep saying, you cannot buy talent or experience. And all these people who actually had the experience, now they're out of a job or they have a problem now making ends meet. Instead of saving the country from somebody that doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. Okay, so it's not unlike if let's say that let's say that you're a driver, okay, like a bus driver, and you have like a buddy, okay, that is assigned to you, okay, so you like tag team as a driver, okay, and this person, while you are actually traveling, let's say cross country, okay, while this person is awake, then you drive and then you take turns. But as you continue driving, then this other person is an absolutely terrible driver. And you say, well, fuck it, I cannot work with this person. And then you just quit and let the bad driver drive. What is going to happen? He's going to kill everybody else in the fucking bus. That's what's going to happen. Because they are being derelict or they don't really understand the importance of the role that they're having, okay? And I use a bus driver example so you can actually see as a parallel as far as what we're doing, because that is essentially what they're doing. Any cabinet position, they're going to have a whole bunch of people in there, okay? And they are going to be moving us to a certain level of whatever we need to be going, okay, with that department, whatever the mission is. But if anybody else who is in there is unsafe or there's they don't understand how to negotiate traffic or how to get from one side to the other, then either people are going to be missing or you're not even going to make it there. Okay, so those are the things that I need you to start thinking when you need to illustrate, okay, how dangerous this thing is. All right. And that's why these exalted positions, they normally are going to have somebody who really fucking knows what they're actually supposed to be doing, okay? But then the next step, that an authoritarian is going to be doing is that after they put all these loyalists that they don't know what the fuck they're doing, then they're going to make everybody else dumber, and that includes the future generations, so they don't catch up to their incompetence. Okay, so yeah, if you put everybody else who is also fucking dumb as shit, then they might not actually know any better, particularly if it takes a little bit longer. That's what I gave you the example, that Putin has been in power for more than 20 years. And if you were 10 years old by the time that he got into power, well, essentially your entire adult life, you haven't seen any difference. So you might not understand how the rest of the world works. And that's kind of how it gets into that train of thought that you don't really understand. That's what happened in the Soviet Union. They were pretty much almost century, like essentially from the 20s until the 90s, so like all this big chunk of people. So all these people, they didn't know any better. They were not allowed to leave. They were not allowed to travel, and they was just fed whatever, they were told. So it is going to be very hard for them to actually understand how it was outside the Soviet Union's understanding of the world. And that also is why created some other discontent, because then they don't understand the capitalistic part and they understand all the other, sadly, opportunistic things that did happen to the Soviet people after the Soviet Union collapse. All right, so. But it gets more sinister than that, because the prosecution of minorities is also part of this agenda. Because anybody who's not conforming with whatever the MAGA wants to do, that then they are going to start getting some other problems with whoever is quote unquote the new authority. And you've seen this thing already happening. So it doesn't happen overnight, okay? The stage is being setting, particularly trying to dehumanize certain groups of people that are going to be having a harder time fighting back. In this case, Trump has been sending a lot of hate against the immigrants, about people from the LGBTQ plus community, and essentially anybody who asks him any tough questions, like fake news, enemy of the people, or the blood poisoning of America, or whatever, that he says, if they ask him a relevant question, what he does, this is a very nasty question, you're a very nasty person, and then doesn't answer. And that is the way that he does, because he's thin skin. Now, this is the thing. If you're a world leader, you need to have strong skin. you need to understand that sometimes people are going to be asking tough questions because you are fucking in charge of an entire fucking country, particularly the premier nation in the world. You need to have a not just a tough skin, but you have to be very cool minded whenever somebody asks you something that is going to push you outside your comfort zone. Why? Because you are supposed to be the person that is in charge of the country. You are supposed to be the person who makes those decisions with a clear mind. So if you're just emotional, then that is a vulnerability. And guess what? That is highly exploitable. If you're a kind of person who's just lashes out and starts giving childish nicknames and acting all sophomoric, yeah, that is a vulnerability. Any nation who has a regime that is authoritarian, they're going to see through that, and they're going to find a way how to exploit you, either through adulation or through trying to kind of fucking rev you up to see what shit you're going to be doing. The difference is that they actually are going to be understanding what are going to be the many possibilities that your bombastic personality is going to kind of like fall between. Either, you're going to be going all hard right, or you're going to fucking fall to the side and suck your thumb. Okay. So they understand that because that's what they do. Okay. There's a reason why authoritarian regimes, they kind of maintain power, and then they have to keep on power, because then otherwise the veneer falls down, and if an authoritarian regime that fell never ended well. Let's put it that way. Okay, so many of you might have not been tracking also that a lot of the Trump acolytes, particularly with the Project 2025 and some of these other people that are kind of like in his orbit, they want to take away the child labor laws. What does that mean? They want to essentially make children go work, especially children that they are from low income families. Yeah. So instead of going to school, or if you go to school, well, you don't need to be going to school. You go and work, work the fields or work in the factories or work in whatever it is that you need to be doing. So now think about this, okay, for a second. If a lot of people, they think, okay, that they are going to be getting all the immigrants. He wants to essentially deport everybody on day one. That's what he's saying. That is, by the way, it's going to be extremely expensive to do that. And it's going to be extremely dehumanizing, regardless of whether you understand, like the undocumented immigrants, or if they're documented, because he also wants to strip people of their citizenship. So there's a lot of different layers. Okay, so if you think that you're safe, yeah, no, we're not. None of us. Okay, and you have to understand that if he kicks all these other people that they're actually working on these on these fields that otherwise are unsustainable for the USA, who do you think is probably going to be working those fields? Your children. Probably he's going to be sending your children. If you're a low income family, yeah, you're probably going to send your children. But some of the more cynical are going to say, like, wait, I'm not low income. No, I have money. No, I'm good. Well, for now, understand, that with these tariffs and all this other shit is going to be making the cost of living unsurmountable. There's going to be other things that you are seeing, a lot of other things that you're not seeing, that are actually going to continue falling behind, not just as unintended consequences, but also by design. And that means that if you're struggling to make and meet, and you're going to be needing those pennies, chances are then you say, well, maybe I should be sending my kid to be working on these fields for a few hours, just so I can get a few cents, just so we don't starve. So understand how this is actually happening, okay? You might think that is hyperbolic, that is never going to happen. Well, none of the shit that is happening right now, people, they thought that it was preposterous just like fucking even a few days ago when Trump got into this new cycle of power. Okay, so understand, okay, yeah, if you think that is fucking bizarre, that's not gonna happen, well, you have to fucking wake the fuck up, okay? And you have to understand also, like he created this fake department, this Doge department that has two people in charge, like two people, Musk and Ramaswamy, okay, which are both loyalists, by the way. And Musk himself, he told that you should be expecting a lot of financial hardships coming up soon. So yeah, just get used to it. That's you and I, okay? That's us, That's not them. They're going to make a lot more money, while they're supposedly cutting all this information that they don't understand that is important, or all these departments or all these positions that they don't understand. that they're important. They just think that, okay, maybe they can cut, some money from there. You have to understand, okay, that is happening. And I keep saying that you need to understand that, because yes, understanding, it's a very loaded term. And for example, if you're a veteran, especially a MAGA veteran, remember this shit, okay? This, and you voted for this, they are already planning on cutting VA benefits. Okay, so the Veterans Affairs, if you have disability, you have some of the other stuff, they want to privatize in that and a whole bunch of other programs. Okay, and all these agencies supposedly to make it better. But get this, okay? You need to understand. Privatizing these type of services means that somebody's making money. That means whoever is in charge of that, they will be making money. And that means that if they want to cut some money that doesn't go to a veteran or to somebody that needs that money for whatever reason, because of whatever situation they want to do, then they are actually going to give that to their own company, because the company, when it's privatized, it has one mission. What is it? To make money for the company and for the shareholders. So that is what is happening. Did you read it? It was in Project 25 also. Yeah, they're talking about getting rid of all these other positions. It's just like put fucking loyalists into those positions that right now are actually holding the country together, even if you don't understand. Does the government have room for improvement? So fucking loosely. Yes, it does. But they don't seem to understand what is the solution. By making it worse does not fix it. Just changing something does not necessarily fix it. Okay, so there's some government programs that are supposed to remain as government programs because there is no conflict of interest. Because you're working for the people, you're not working to try to make money. Because otherwise, the money that is supposed to be going to a beneficiary goes somewhere else. Okay, and then there's going to be some other ways, to control the cash. Give you an example, okay? And I know a lot of the fucking MAGA people love this thing. Private prisons. They make money if they have prisoners. Who pays them that money? You do. The taxpayers. All right? That's where the money comes from. But they make money if they actually cut some cost, or they actually charge more to the prisoners, for phone calls or for the commissaries or for whatever the fuck, they're actually doing. Okay. So you need to understand how these things actually work. Okay. So there's certain things that they are not meant to be privatized. For example, you wouldn't privatize the armed forces, so is not something that you would be doing. You would not be privatizing the police force. Okay. Because then there is no equal law distribution to everybody else. Okay, there's going to be conflicts of interest. That's why certain programs are supposed to remain government programs. Okay, and it still gets even more insidious than that, because Trump's tariffs wars started now against our two neighbors, Canada and Mexico, and this is fucking insane. Okay. Because you have to understand that we take a lot of shit for granted here in the USA. You go to the grocery store, or you go online, or you go like blah blah blah, and it appears. A lot of this shit comes from outside our borders. Okay, so a lot of this stuff actually does not happen in the USA. It just doesn't grow. We cannot actually make it for several reasons. Okay, now one of the things is very different. You say that is assembled in the USA, and the other thing is also fully made in the USA. Not everything can be actually fully made in the USA. Okay, we don't have that manufacturing capability, and we don't have the geographical opportunity to do certain things. Okay, so let me give you an example. Okay, for example, a lot of the food that we have, the lumber and some of the bunch of shit that you take for granted for your car or for your house or for your grocery shopping list or any of those staples that you have, a lot of that stuff does not happen to exist in the USA. Like, for example, certain fruits and vegetables, we have to import that shit because we have seasons in the USA, and not all the seasons are actually producing food. And not all the seasons are actually bringing the same variety of stuff that you would like to have on your dinner table. And then guess what that means? That means that everything else is going to raise in price. You have to understand these things, okay? And people don't seem to fucking understand, but that's what I'm saying. Like for example, in the food, like not everything grows in the USA. Okay, there's a lot of farms and areas in the USA. You know what we grow a lot? Corn. And a lot of that corn is not even to eat; it's actually to use it as ethanol. Okay, so just in case you didn't realize that. All right, so That's why we rely on a lot of different countries for doing that, because it's not only just say, okay, we're just going to start moving this farming here. No, it doesn't work that way. Okay, because this climate is the climate, it's the soil composition, is the type of irrigation. There's literally tons of shit that actually are connected into how this stuff actually works. Okay, and it seems that most people are not really thinking about that. Again, America first does not mean America alone, because we're in the same fucking planet as every other fucking country in the planet. Okay, and the USA has representation of every country in the world as Americans, as American citizens, either by their heritage or by naturalization or whatever the reason that we have. Okay, but the problem is that it doesn't matter if you believe it or don't believe it, or you understand or you don't understand it. If you don't pay attention to weather this storm, it's going to engulf you anyways. Okay, and the problem is because we are dependent on other markets, not just for our standard of living, but also for how sustainable it's going to be, particularly short term or long term. Like, because like, if you need for maintenance, if you need from lumber, you need for parts, you need for manufacturing, you need like all this stuff. Okay, even trying to change that overnight is not going to happen. Particularly, then you also have to think in what is going to be the price point, because of course the cost of living in the USA is a lot higher than in other countries. Okay, so that also brings to some of the other problem that Trump doesn't seem to understand. Okay, so the BRICS nations. Okay, so BRICS, that it stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and of course there's a few others that were added later on. There's Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, and the United Arab Emirates, or the UAE. So these guys, some are quote unquote friendly to the USA, and other ones are openly adversary to the USA. For example, Iran, they definitely do not like the USA. And when I'm talking about these countries, I'm not talking about the people. Okay, I'm talking about the regime. I'm talking about who is in charge. Okay, because like same way. Okay, if you didn't vote for Trump and say, okay, that you like Trump's government style, you probably are going to say, no, I don't agree with that. Same thing with these other countries. The problem is that a lot of these countries, they cannot speak out of turn, because there's punitive measures if you do so, and we're moving into that into the point. But notice that in that list, Russia does not actually have a trade agreement with the USA because of the sanctions. And yes, that happens because of uh, the invasion of Ukraine, that's been going on, so that's how the sanctions started happening. Okay, against Russia. And it's very likely, I wouldn't be surprised if Trump is actually going to be lifting those sanctions from Russia coming up very soon, even though he's actually putting a whole bunch of other roadblocks to the rest of our people that we're actually supposed to be working with. Okay, so like Canada and Mexico, and it's already having a trade war with all of us. Okay, but you also have to remember that into these BRIC nations, they also have like some of the heavy hitters, such as China, who also has been openly adversary to the USA, and they happen also to be the person that a lot of the shit that you have probably in your house, look around, probably was made in China, was probably put over there. Now, just imagine everything that you have over in your house that you're looking that's made in China, and increase the price several times because of how much it would actually cost to make it in the USA. And that also includes because some of the raw material to actually create that is not from the USA. Okay, so understand how these things come together. Okay, and yes, essentially everything that you see around you is probably going to be coming up in price, and that includes anything from pens, ink, and desk material, stuff for your car, everything is going to go up. So Trump also, he threatened these BRIC countries that he would stop, or he would impose rather, some tariffs if they stop using the US dollar, which happens to be the international currency. Why is the USA the international currency? Is because of the liquidity. Okay, you can actually exchange it easily around the world. That's why. Okay, but if the USA keeps burning these bridges, and other nations, not just the BRIC nations, but all these other nations that are interested in still surviving, because regardless of who's the president in the USA, then the USA becomes less and less attractive in the world stage. So then that is going to be prompting from the international community to change the US dollar into a different type of currency. And the reason is because then the USA would be looking like a nation on decline at that point. Okay, if we are essentially putting tariffs on everything else, and it makes it so hard for us to even feed ourselves, and the Department of Education is bad, and we have incompetent people in the different cabinet positions. Yeah, that is going to freak out a lot of fucking people, and they're just going to say, you know what, I need a grown up in the room. Okay, so somebody is going to be filling that void as the world power. And who do you think that is going to be? Well, it's likely going to be China. Okay, they have their strategy that's evident, and they're not even covert about that. Saying, yeah, we're going to be the next big economy. We are going to be surpassing the USA. So we have bigger military. We have like all the stuff that you're using. Yep, comes from China. So we make that happen. How do you like the standard of living in China? Well, it depends. Like from what social class you are. Okay, not going to be getting too much into that, but learn a little bit about that so you understand, how the status quo then it would be changing around the world. Okay. And right now, both China and Russia, who are both BRIC countries, they are allies, and both just seem to be very excited that Trump would be back in office. So what do you think is that? Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you, in case you didn't realize, because it's a win-win for them. Okay, so if Trump is in office like he did last time, everything that he was doing was incredibly convenient for Russia and for China and for a whole bunch of the other countries, even though he was actually talking shit about them, blah, 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 talking tough in some way. Not really so much talking shit about, like Russia. He minds his P's and Q's on that a lot. But, the way that he actually would be very bombastic. So he actually has some ways, but he acts in any case very subordinate to them, okay? And in the event that Trump actually decides to assert or find his spine against these two different countries, then something's probably going to happen. Okay, so and just so you understand, okay, Trump has given nicknames to any person, including like world leaders that are our friends. Okay, he's never, ever, ever, ever given a derogatory nickname either to Xi Jinping from China or to Vladimir Putin from Russia. What are Trump's derogatory nicknames for those two world leaders? Okay, not that he should be given derogatory nicknames to anybody, but it's because he respects them or he fears them. What is the difference? Okay, does he respect them, he fears them, or does he actually work for either of them? Okay, you have to understand and really start having those wheels turning around. And if you say, well, that is not for my Trump, okay, just think about if it was Biden, okay, or it was Kamala, or it was like somebody else doing the same fucking thing. Okay, if they would be giving nicknames to everybody else, and just these two other people, they don't give a nickname. Why would that be? Okay, not that they're doing that because they're actually above, like doing shit like that, because they're not fucking immature childs, or children, like Kamala and Biden. I mean, they don't give nicknames to people. But anyways, if Trump would actually find his spine, then what would happen is that an armed conflict would likely ensue. And by having already all these loyalists that they don't fucking have any idea as far as how to actually run the fucking country, because they are just yes men and yes women around Trump, and to include the senator that said that if Trump says, jump 3 feet high and scratch your head, he's going to do exactly that. Well, when that happens, then we lose. We're going to implode. We'll fall like a house of cards. So that is one possibility, but instead of actually going to armed conflict, then they actually been working on pushing the USA for several years. And the easiest way to achieve this is by making the USA suffer first. Once it goes, with these tariffs, with economic struggles and intimidation through a quasi-dictator like Trump, who will seek his minions if he feels bad hurt. And that is already happened, okay? Talk some shit about him in Twitter or whatever, fuck, like they're going to be a whole bunch of motherfuckers, they're going to be giving you death threats and shit, okay? So understand, okay? What they don't understand is that even those idiots who are actually giving you a death threat, they are disposable themselves, okay? They are actually going to be suffering on the same thing, even though they actually think that they are correct on that, but that is that cognitive dissonance that they have, okay? But remember, okay, Trump is subordinate to these other powers, even if he is doing that unwittingly, okay, even if he doesn't actually understand, okay. Is he a witting or unwitting insider threat? We were talking about that. Okay? A witting insider threat, somebody who is sabotaging their team knowingly, and an unwitting is doing something, but they're too stupid to realize it, okay. So which one is he? Because he's repeating those talking points that are very convenient to them. All right, so I know there's plenty more to talk about this. Please watch all the other episodes that I've been putting here from this podcast. Again, as I say, there's a lot of context that actually gets missed by the mainstream media and the independent media. And I know it's because it's not something that is just like packaging, like in a very easy way, for you just to kind of like unpack it. It's not how it works. Okay. I'm really doing this so you understand how the complexity actually exists. Okay, and I'm taking this time to let you know. Okay, because I care not just about you, but I care about pretty much all of us. That we are in the same sinking ship together, right? And this is not new. Okay, I've been doing this for a while. I've written a couple of books: Authoritarianism and Propaganda, The Puppet Master Tools, and Woke and Proud, The Charlatans Inconvenience, and they are nonfiction historical analysis of how authoritarian propagandists have been trying to take over the world and how to defeat them. So those are guides for you so you can understand the playbook. Yeah, and of course, I've been writing about this thing for a long time as well. So you understand, that this is predicted. What I'm telling you is what is actually happening. So I've been predicting this. So you can go to my website, www.halflifecrisis.com, go to the article section, and you can actually see there's a timestamp, and you can actually understand what is it that the media cycles seem to forget because well, the clickbait rate just moves so fast. And of course, I created another tool, www.infoincontext.com, which helps you understand how authoritarians take power and how to defeat them. Okay, so all these resources, they're there for you. Okay, I'm putting this thing because the right information exists, but for every 1,000 readers that I have, there's millions who just are listening to somebody else that is gaslighting them. Okay, at least I'm going to be telling you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Okay. And yeah, on the next episode, we're going to be talking about how these Trump policies are actually both communist and fascist. So he's a commie and a fascist at the same time. And I know that's kind of like quite an achievement. But the reason is because he has help, okay? So somebody's actually helping him out. And yes, it might surprise you, but the thing is because of these isolationist policies that he's doing, he's really pandering to some of these other regimes that are adding insult to injury to the USA. So it's because they don't just want to win, but they want to humiliate the USA as the empire, and break your spirit by attacking the American exceptionalism. Not just head on, but they've been destroying it from the inside out for many years. Probably a lot of people that just been fucking sleep at the wheel and they haven't realized. And that includes a lot of people who are fucking elected leaders, many of them who fucking like the red hat, okay? But some of the blue hat also that they're just fucking reactive, all right? But Trump has fascistic tendencies, yes, that isn't extreme right, but the methods that he is using to do that, they happen to be communist also, which is insane, okay? We're going to be talking about that in the next episode. But yeah, fascism and communism are mirror images of the same authoritarian monster, okay? The more authoritarian it gets, the more punitive your life gets, all right? So Trump's communism lifestyle is because he does postulate himself kind of like as he's the deity, like he has this cult of personality, and a lot of the Christian nationalists they actually think that he's the new emissary from God, So that is also by design. That it also came from somewhere else, okay? But also because Trump is making the USA more isolated is because he's causing to other authoritarian regimes that the rest of the world say, okay, I don't want to be part of that club. So then we lose our prestige around the world. So I told you, season 2 is about the insider threat. And remember, you could also be an insider threat, either witting or unwitting if you don't fucking understand what's going on. Okay, that's why I've been saying understand, like for a fucking million times, during this episode, because it is important for you to understand what is actually going on. And the way that you do that is by marrying critical thinking with intellectual honesty in a very pragmatic manner. Okay, don't just see it as you love fucking Trump. Okay, see it as somebody that you don't like. Okay, and just give him the same attributes to see if you would have the same mental gymnastics to give him the same benefit of the doubt. You wouldn't. If it would be Biden or somebody else, no, you wouldn't. And I know that, because just talking about the Biden giving a pardon to his son, the fucking MAGA people, they lost their shit. And even some people on the left, they lost their shit. but they were okay. Whenever he fucking was giving all kinds of pardons, even to his uh, so what was to his father-in-law, like with Kushner's father, and make him a fucking yeah, he actually gave him a pardon, like for a crime, and make him an ambassador to France, So what the fuck? Okay, so yeah, so use the kind of like symmetric to understand that you might be an insider threat without actually understanding. Okay, and then remember, an authoritarian is only as powerful as their followers. So, are you a follower for an authoritarian, or you are an American citizen who values freedom? Okay, because they're not the same. All right, guys, thank you so much for this, and we're going to be talking in the next episode. Take care. Bye.